Okay, so let us see it one by one. This is one of the web service which will say that who is the session currently in. There is no one. No one has logged in yet. Okay. I come to this page. I come over here. When I go for login, I'm saying abc.com. I say hello 123. When I click on login, I could able to log in. Now, when I ask the session guy, who is the user who has logged in currently? There is a user called as user underscore ABC. His logged in user is so and so. Good. Now, what if I want to kill this session? In order to kill this session, we have added this API. Once I click on this guy, session got killed. Now I come back here. If I reload this guy, you see session is no more. In this case, when I come to this reload this product details page, why the reason you are showing the product details? You should not show the product details. Instead, you need to take me back to the home page, isn't it? Instead, it has to take me back to the home page so that the home page will be, it will be redirected to the home page so that user will be doing a login once again. Okay. Are we clear up to this theoretically? Practically, I'm going to show you what we have done, but any questions up to here? How I have done that, I'm still pending. Let me unmute you guys. If you want, you can speak out. Yeah, how I have done, I'm going to show you. But are we good up to this theoretically? Yes, no?
Sir, what is Mongo, sir? Is it other database?
Okay. What I have done is, it's not other database. It will be using the Mongo database only, but it will be using like a cache. So,
Mm.
if you see what is the challenging we have, okay, shall I go with the discussion later, Sri? Because right now
Okay,
I'll
sir.
talk about theoretically how we achieved that. I'm going to discuss.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions, anyone? Theoretically.
So can you explain like if we are using JWT, then how it will work?
Forget about that. I mean, honestly, right now, let's don't go into that. It is because JW it is a different, what do you say,
Auth.
authorizing the web service. JWT is authorizing the web service, whether you are a valid user or not. That we will take it later. Okay, first of all, let us go finish the current flow, then I will discuss that. Fine.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Swati, please explain once joined late. I mean, nothing, Swati, like yesterday, right? I got some time and I could able to finish the blocker what we had. Okay. So, let me explain that. We are about to just start with the explanation. Now, what is our requirement? Let me open our running notes. This is a, honestly, guys, this is the very first time I was showing to the in the class I was discussing, because like when I say React, I don't go too much of deeper of this node services because people say that boss it is unnecessary for us. But luckily, like our project got such case, so we are going with this. No, I say Feb 14th. Wow, nice. Okay, so what is our requirement? The requirement is need to share session between two services of one single server when the request is coming from a cross domain. Is everyone clear with this statement? Anyone, any piece of question, let me know. Our
Is it
requirement
mean,
is
sir? Localhost 3002, localhost 5173, we have
exactly
to.
that is a cross domain. Your server is running in our current example. It is local host 3000, and this guy is React localhost 5173. This will not be a problem when it is not cross domain, because we have already seen that. Yesterday I have shown you, right? If it is not cross domain in the browser, if I hit it, it is happening.
And one more question, sir. I mean,
Go ahead.
this session management, are we able to manage through other backend also, like Spring Boot? only
Any
in
backend you
Node.js.
go, every guy, now I have to do this in using, okay, here the client is React running in 5173. This is called as live server. It is not web server, it is a live server, temporary server we can call it as. Now, when I say that web server, what we were using is, I was saying Node.js. But you say, no, boss, I'm expertising on the Spring Boot service. You can do that. Boss, I'm expertising on Python web services. You can do that. Yeah, I'm expertising on PHP. I'm expertising on .NET. You can go with any of the server you wanted.
So
Okay?
same session management anywhere we can use. I mean,
Yes.
implement.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions up to here? I'm just about to explain this step, like need to share the session data between two services of one single server, when not only two services, we can say between services, between multiple services of one single server, when the request is coming from a cross-domain client. Okay. Now, our client is React, who is running in so-and-so. Our server is Node.js, who is running in 3000 port number. Okay. Now, what are the steps to be done? The steps are, we have to do the steps in both client side and server side. Steps to be done in server side. Steps to be done in client side. Okay, we have to implement some steps both in client side and server side. Now, we have achieved this through MongoDB in-memory cache. Okay, what we are going to do is, we are going to take a mediator who is called as a MongoDB. Here, either we can use MongoDB or we can even go with Redis in-memory cache. Okay, what is this in-memory cache? It is like, it is like under the cache, the data will be stored. We couldn't able to explore the data. We can't go with in the DB, how do we put the queries, etc. and all, we can't do that. But it is possible to store the data and go to retrieve the data. Either you can go with the Redis server or you can go with MongoDB also. The reason why I have gone with the MongoDB is, as we are already creating this MongoDB, right? We already created this MongoDB's is the reason I'm just using MongoDB in order to store the cache or in order to store the session user information. Okay. Any questions up to this? Okay. Now in the server, the step one, what we need to do is, while mentioning or while instantiating cars, mention its what was that? Let me go into the tab.js. While you're going with the cars, you need to mention that it is credentials true. Okay, 1 second. Yeah. So while mentioning its credential true here. Okay, while creating the course, we know that why the reason we have used this course here, boss, in order to mention what are the domains it has to accept. So we said like localhost, we say ABC, XYZ, so and so and all. We have to say that credentials is true, which will enable the receipt of the cookies. Implies whenever the request is coming from the user, I make sure whatever the data or the cookie information is there, right? The session details and all, I will try to read it and hold it. If you don't do this when you are creating the course, obviously it is not going to store the session details. That is the step number one. Any questions up to this, up to step number one? Any questions up to step number 1? Good. Now the second step is configure the session object with the store as Mongo store. Obviously, I am configuring the session. Earlier we have just said like whenever I need to go with the session, a simple object. What is your secret key? Okay, what is your cookie? Okay, what is your max age? Up to what time I need to be there? This is the details what we were doing. But this is cross-domain information is going to come. If it is one single server, client and server, if it is one single server, both client and server running inside a one single port or one single domain, just this will help us. But as we are storing the data between the cross domain, now I want to maintain the session between the cross domain, we need to provide some extra information. What is that? Mongo store information. What is the MongoDB store on which you want to store the data? So that we are doing by something like this. You see, session object is something like this. Session method, this is what I am passing. Instead of this, we are doing this much bigger one. Let us see what all the things we are passing. Store implies the place where the data of your cookies will be stored. We'll talk about that. And remaining same secret key, resave, save uninitialized. What is the name of your session? You can give whatever the name you wanted. And cookie, what is the maximum age it has to be? If it is 1 day, this is the data what I'm going to pass. Otherwise, if it is 5,000, okay, which is equal to 5 seconds. Okay, in the same way, if it is 10,000, 10 seconds, like this, you can do multiply, then you'll be getting it. So I'll say 10 seconds. Okay, my maximum age of the cookie is 10 seconds. HTTP only true, prevents JavaScript access cookie so and so, and security so and so. That's it. Now the main thing what we need to see is what is the store here. The place where our server is storing the cookie information or the session information. Okay, under this, what is the database we want to connect? I am saying something called as go to the local host 27017, our existing MongoDB, create a database called as my session DB. Actually, earlier, if you see, there is no session called as my session DB here. You see, there is no database called as my session DB. But if I reload this guy, you see, there is a session called as my session DB got created automatically. And if you clearly get into this guy, there is no collection. Okay, collection name is something called a session. But do you see any data here? No. This data, if you go into the aggregation, not indexes, you see, this is where the data will be stored. You can't read this data. You see, will be stored in like the session details, which is getting stored. That is the reason you go into the collection, you don't see any documents, etc. and all. But it is using this collection in order to store the user session details. Your Node.js is using to store the user session details under this MongoDB cache. And I created this store by using something called as Mongoose. You see, mongostore.create. What is the URL? What is the server which has to be created? And what is this Mongo store here? If you go here, okay, where is this? How this Mongo store is going to come? Excuse me. In fact, did I use this Mongoose here? Okay, we need to connect to the server. That is the reason where I was using. Okay, so Mongo store is require connection DB. I mean, from your Node.js, in order to connect to that Mongo database, I just used like connect to Mongo here, which is your Mongo store. What is this Mongoose here? Earlier, in order to connect to the Mongo database, we were using something called as const MongoDB is equal to require. We were using something called as MongoDB as a node module. Either you can use MongoDB or you can use Mongoose in order to connect to the Mongo server. Sorry, Mongo database server. In general, people will be going with the Mongoose when we want to have structural based Mongo database connection. You know, Mongo database, if you remember, we discussed that it is a schema-less, no SQL, no structure is needed for that. You can store anything on any of the collection because it is JSON based. If you want to make the MongoDB with a schema based, then we generally go with the Mongoose. Okay. So that I'm using because I'm simply want to connect it to the Mongo server. That's it. Nothing else. I want to connect it to the Mongo server so that I could able to store the session details, etc. things and all. That is what I'm doing. Okay. So I created a Mongo store and I made this MongoDB to be connected. The same store I am passing to session object. It will automatically understand that this is the place where the data I have to hold or I have to store. Every time user is asking, every time user is killing, I have to make sure this is the place where I need to delete it. And you see collection name, we are the one who is going to do. We are the one who is specifying the session database name. We are the one who is mentioning the session. That's it. It will automatically store the data here. Now, once this is done, remaining steps are as usual. What will be the next step? That's it. After this guy, this is the second step. Now, in the third step, start adding or retrieving data from session through request dot session object. As simple as it is. So when now after this, once this guy is done, I want to store some data. Simply request dot session so and so is equal to data. I want to read some data. Where is that? Get product details. You simply say request dot session. Reading the data is request dot session. Setting the data request dot session dot so and so. That's it. As simple as it is. Same guy storing session details in Node.js through PostgreSQL. Okay, if you see here, the store will be Postgres session. See, I mean, only thing what gets changed is this store guy. You go with Redis, you go with PostgreSQL, you go with SQL, you go with Oracle, you go with MongoDB. That is what the store will be set. Did that answer your question, Pravat? Yes, no? Okay, someone else is asking a question. Go ahead, please. Shri, you are asking a question?
Yes, sir. Create Mongo store. Through programmatically, we can create inside database that other collections, sir.
Yes. Even in other case also, whenever we are inserting the data, right? Even in your normal, not just only for the data or not just only while storing the session details. Anytime we are trying to connect to the Mongo database, if the database is not there, it will automatically create it. You see, for example, here under your app.js, we mentioned as my session database. Assume like I'll say my session database one. If you go into the MongoDB, there is no database like that. What actually it will do, if the database is not there, it will automatically create it. You see, for example, for the first, okay, server automatically got restarted. Whenever server starts, you see, when I reload the page, you see my session DB got created. If the database is not there, I will automatically create it. Okay, if it is not there, it will automatically create it. If it is existing, I will make use of it. Clear?
Yes.
Any other questions?
Sir, line number 64.
Line number 62. Okay.
64, sir. TTL.
60.
Sir, it is user-defined key, sir.
Yes. No, not user-defined key. This Mongo store dot create, right? Mongo URL, Mongo collection, and what is the session expiry time. We can't say whatever we wanted. This is the predefined. If you go with Mongo store dot create, right? Or else you see here. Okay, if I click on this guy, you see what is the URL we are going to provide? Connection Mongo options. So when I go with create, right? If you see here, these are the Mongo options. You see Mongo URL, client promise, client collection name, TTL, touch after, stringify. These are the methods. These are the properties what can be passed. It's not these all predefined, not user defined. Clear?
And sir, line number 60, the session is express session, sir, you are using
Yeah, earlier we created, right?
the same
Now,
express session.
let me delete this. This is not needed. Where is the session object? Yeah, express session only we are using.
And sir, what is this Redis? We are using
Line
Mongo
number,
store to 17. We are not using it all, right?
this can be deleted, ma'am. Yesterday I was trying with Redis, so now I gone with Mongoose.
Sir, Redis is an alternative for express session
No.
or
Redis is an alternative for MongoDB or PostgreSQL or what do you say, Oracle or any database what you are using in order to store your session details. It is nothing. Session should be for sure there. Express sessions is the one who is using. Early, the reason why we have gone this, just the one thing what we are adding is store. And why we are adding this store? Because we are getting a request from the cross domain. That's it. Any more questions? Anyone?
Sir,
Redis, Mangos, these and all in-memory database cache, sir.
MongoDB is not in memory. Redis is a in-memory cache. But MongoDB or PostgreSQL can be used as an in-memory. If you say that I will be using the Redis in order to store all the database queries, etc., no, not at all possible. Redis is only used to hold the in-memory cache. That's it.
So
what exactly
Mangos is in. Okay, go.
Sir, in-memory database means in what sense?
Could you repeat the question?
No, sir. You're saying like in-memory database. We can use MongoDB or Postgres as a in-memory database. Means what does it mean?
No. First of all, what is the difference between the normal database and in-memory database? Okay, let me show you the best definition. Okay, so when I say in-memory cache, so you see here, in-memory is always a temporary database, what you can say, or it will be stored in something called as a RAM, or like it is not a physical data where it will be always available. You can put some queries or you can retrieve the data. Whereas coming to the database, you already know that's like a permanent database where actually it is getting stored. The reason why we go with extremely faster. Okay, data structure, key value, whatever it is. So speed reduce the load on database by storing the frequently accessed database. Okay, so in general, right, what we do is, okay, let me go with in general, where all we will be using the in-memory in a real time, right? For example, user has put a request. User has put a request to something called as the database to retrieve the data. Some read data is the request what I have sent. Now, when I'm keeping a request here, it will be going. Now, you know that anytime I'm making a database call, it is going to be a very costly call for us, right? And I need to open the connection, I need to write an operation, etc. and all. And this is one single database, multiple people are connecting to this. Now, what we do is in every client, whenever the client is creating in the second type of request, what I will do is I will be creating a in memory in between. The data is never stored in memory. But whenever I'm putting a request here, I will be sending the request to the server. Whatever the response I'm getting, I will be storing into this in-memory cache. From here, I'm going to read the data. Second time I want the same data, instead of directly going to the DB, it will be faster when I read the data directly from your in-memory cache. This is the reason we generally go in your real time to go with the in-memory caches. And this is not physically existing that once you close the session, the in-memory cache is done. Like for example, if you open the browser, you're doing something, close the browser, whatever the data it is, that is gone. If you want something to be stored every time physically, it should be available, go with this guy. This is physical server, but this is a temporary server which will be created every time the user request creates. Okay, I create a in memory for you. Now all the transactions will be done within this in memory. If any data I wanted, I will be copying into this in memory cache. From here, I'm going to operate it. Are you clear?
So, this in memory, it is a part of RAM. Like it will be creating a temporary memory on the
Not
RAM.
backup RAM, it is a temporary RAM we are creating. We are not saying that it will be backup of your database, but we are saying that it is a temporary disk what I'm using. I'm getting from here and I'm keeping here. From here, I'm going to distribute the data for you.
So temporary space used from the RAM.
Temporary RAM or space, we can call it as.
Sir, if suddenly the power of the
Gone.
session will be lost, right?
Gone. For example, in the browser, I'm doing something. I have searched something. Okay. Now I say that some cars detail. Okay, this is our page, right? You go to the Amazon, you search for cars. This is there. You close the browser. Data is gone. Whatever the data you are receiving. Now, if I ask you a question, where you are storing the data, ma'am, inside the RAM. From the RAM, I'm going to retrieve the data. So that's a temporary. So that is where we will be using the in-memory. Now, Redis is dedicatedly a in-memory. Can I use the Redis as the actual database where it can store the data permanently, even I see?
MongoDB Connect. And for this session, you have created Mongo Store, right? Two things you are
Exactly.
using.
Exactly. This is our actual database where we are storing the data of the product details and all. This is the session DB what we have created. You see, collection is session. But why I can't see the data? I have not stored the physical data here. I have stored the session information, which will be more faster while reading the data.
Sir, in the app.js,
Guys, one more thing. As I mentioned, like as I will be closing early, I have another 5 minutes to close. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, ma'am. Under
sir, in the
app.js.
app.js, Mongo Connect, some initial steps we have, right?
Yes, ma'am. This
That
the
is
step.
already there. Yeah, yeah. Okay. That is for API fetching, and this one is only for. Okay.
Yes. Any other questions?
Sir, I have a doubt. Sir, in line number 19, we are using
Line number?
different URL. 19.
19. Okay. This is the Mongo database under which your session database will be created.
And in line number 62 or something, we are using another different URL.
62.
51, sorry. 51, sorry.
51.
Okay, same system.
Same. I'm telling that, under what store you have to get created. That's it.
So why can't we use direct that variable here?
Yeah, we can do that. You just put this guy into a separate variable, use this variable here, or use this variable here. Or else, yeah, I can directly use this Mongo URL itself. Okay, that's what you're saying. Yeah, we can use it.
Yes.
It's a string, right? We can use it.
So you were mentioning about Redis, like it is acting as in-memory cache. So sir, we have local storage and session storage also in the browser. What is the difference between
Okay, the
the
problem is when it is, okay, who is actually storing this session? When if you store the data under the user storage or local storage, how does the server, your web server, you know that, right? This is the web server we have in between. We will be always putting a request to the web server. Web server is going to get the database here. Now this in memory is actually part of our here, right? Now, when I have to store the when I have to store the data, server, why it will be storing the data into the user storage or local storage here? I can't store the data, right? One thing what you can say is server will never have access to any of the resource inside your client. Now, where you store the session details. After you read the data, you keep in the session details, that is you as a client developer. But do you think as a client developer, you have access to create the session, manage the session and all? No, that is happening inside the web server. Obviously, he cannot do anything in your local storage, session storage. I don't have accessibility for that. Clear?
No, sir, like in session storage also we can like keep it up to the session is available. Like as we close the
What is
browser,
what I'm
then it will
saying?
get
Once you receive the data, if you come back here, where is that? Under your this guy, once you receive the data under the components, product details. Okay, once you have this data here, this product details are there. Now you want to store this data. This response dot data is there. You can simply say local storage dot set item. What is the key and what is the data? You do this. Okay, that can be done. Once you receive the data from the client, you do this. You can store the session. As you mentioned, you can even specify the timer, kill it, everything. But here, understand the requirement. The session is getting created at the server side, not at the client side. Client is putting a request, server is responding back, client is keeping a second request, server has to know whether you are a valid user or not. If the client, you yourself will say that I am the valid user, everyone can hack and do the data, everyone can hack your data and he will be reading the data for you. You see one magic I'll show you. For example, I'll go with Edge. I'll just go. Sorry, guys, I'll be closing a bit early, but I'll continue with this discussion. This is a very important discussion tomorrow. Sorry, Monday's class. So, for example, excuse me. If you go to your server, okay, when I do this login, ABC, I say hello 123. I go for this login. Once you reload this guy, this is what it is showing. The user who logged in is user session details. Why this guy is not coming again? What happened, man? Mail ID session. Come on, don't say that. 1 second. Oh,
URL
laptop.
was changed.
Sorry?
URL, sir. Variable name already declared, sir. I mean, session URL change.
1 second. Some changes I have done here. Is the restart is done? Okay. Now I say session detail. This is how it is. When I say login, this is how logged in. Thank God. He's come. Now, if you see, this is the user who has logged in. I take the same web service. I go in a separate tab of this browser. You see this? It is understanding that same user has come. This is the data. Now, if I change the browser, if I hit this guy, why it is not throwing the data? Under one browser, one session will be created. Do you think all this can be done in your local storage, session storage? We can't do that. The session details is actually getting created from the server side. You know, whenever we are putting a request to the server, when you go to your network, fetch or XHR, once you reload the page, okay, there will be a request which will be going to the server. This guy is not showing. It will be carrying all your data. All your data will be carried to the server. You see, this is the session database. This is the request, but under your headers, hell lot of information will go, including what is the browser, what is the time, what is the system, what is the IP. Those all details also will be carried to the server side. Based on that, it is creating a session uniquely. You see, the same URL I'm hitting here, it is saying that you are the one who has logged in. Same URL, if I'm hitting in the same system but with a different browser, session got created a separate session. Okay. So yeah, I'm just pausing this guys. I have already submitted the code. Just go through with this. Monday I will revise it once again, and on Monday we'll be even looking into that protected routes and the testing part. Okay.
So just a follow-up, sir. If we don't use session, then can